Hey guys, John here from Sonic Drive Studio. I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to have some fun with the newly released Boss ME-90. That's right. I'm interested in this unit for a couple of reasons. And the first reason is that the ME series is kind of nostalgic for me because in the early 2000s, I had the ME-50, which was the blue one, I believe. And I used that for all my tones and really enjoyed that thing as it had many sounds inside of one unit. And that was just really cool for me. Over the years, the ME series has obviously evolved quite a bit. So I was also curious to see how much the tones have improved. I'm also quite interested in the preamp or amp models that this thing houses. They are supposed to be similar to the models from the GT series. So that's really exciting as well. And of course, it's also interesting because it's quite an affordable unit. And I always like to see how professional I can make my tones with an affordable unit. So I also just want to see if this is a good option for people on a budget. So basically the amp tones are what I'm going to focus on today, but I'm also going to try some of the effects. First, let's get started with some riffs to see how this thing performs in a hard rock setting using my Gibson Les Paul Custom. I am using the ME-90 as the USB audio interface because yes, this device is capable of that. And I'm doing that for all the songs in this video, by the way. So all the tones in these demos are coming from the ME-90, the amplifiers, the effects, and everything. Okay, let's take a listen and see if this thing sounds good in a mix in a hard rock setting. Check it out. All right, that sounded pretty damn good. I'm really impressed. I think it's safe to say that the Boss amp modeling or the AIRD amp modeling has come a long way since the old COSM days or the COSM days. So this was a rock tone and I had a sort of modded Marshall tone in mind. So I used the X modded amplifier for that as it sounded great for what I had in mind. It had a nice chunk, plenty of gain and a nice mid-range snarl going on. So that was really cool. And let's check out how I set up my preset and what effects and stuff I used. And to do that, let's use the PC editor over USB. Oh, and by the way, all the presets from this video will be uploaded to the Boss Tone Central so you guys can try them for yourself. Just to use them or use them as a starting point or whatnot. So as I said, in the amplifier block or the preamp block, I used the X modded amplifier. And the noise gate is on too, by the way. Oh, and you can also load your own impulse responses into the ME-90. And I was very surprised, very pleasantly surprised to learn about this. Who would have thought that the ME series would be capable of loading IRs? I love it. So that's really nice. And I loaded in 3 OwnHammer IRs from the Rockbox series. And what I like so much about being able to load your own IRs is that you can really make the sound of the unit your own. So that's lovely. The IR that I used this time is the V30EN1999A speaker option on the modern 3 mix. But of course, if you're going to try my preset, you can just use the stock or original cabinet. In the intro, I used an effect, a mod effect, and I used the script phaser. Now you can't actually access this effect through the front panel. So in the app, you're going to have to go to the selectable effects, and there you can choose some additional effects, and the script phaser is one of those, and I think it sounds great. It's a little bit of a shame that you can't access those selectable effects through the front panel, but then again, I really like the option to have more effects available. And later in the chuggy part, I also enabled the overdrive OD effect for some extra clarity and tightness and some aggression. And then after that, I turned that off, and then I turned on the auto wah effect. I think it's the touch wah up effect in the effects 1 block. And for the outro section, I also enabled the Hall reverb for some nice ambience. And I think that all those effects sounded great. Now I want to explore some more tones, some different tones. I want to try a clean tone and a really extreme tone, an 8-string guitar tone, and we're going to start with that. Can the ME-90 handle such an extreme instrument with those specific requirements? Let's check it out. Alright, so that was my Ibanez M80 Meshuggah 8-string guitar, a really cool and unique instrument, and I think that the ME-90 handled it really well. In fact, this is my favorite tone of this video. So again, I used this unit for all the tones and all the effects and all that good stuff. For the preamp, this time I used the Juggernaut amplifier, which sounded quite massive, kind of like a Mesa Boogie rectifier. And for the aired output, I used the same OwnHammer IR as I used in the previous track. Sounded great to me. And to make this tone a bit more 8-string ready, I'm also adding a boost up front. And for that purpose, again, I'm using the overdrive block in the OD block, which is just a great boost to make things sound a bit more clear and to add some push and tightness. The room reverb is also on, but very subtly. You can just hear it barely, just to add a little bit of room ambience to make it sound a bit more natural. And for the intro and outro, I punched in an effect, a mod effect, and that was just the stock phaser effect for some cool extra sounds. And that's it, another very solid tone from the ME-90. Finally, let's try a nice clean tone, and for that purpose, I'm going to use my ESP LTD Phoenix Deluxe 1000, the red one with the Fishman Fluence modern pickups in it on the neck pickup, the Alnico pickup. Let's check it out. right, that tone was beautiful indeed. And for the amp, this time I used the JC120 amplifier. And this is one of those selectable amplifiers that you can access through the app. And it's a classic Roland amp, and it's just a great amplifier for pristine, clean tones. And this time for the cabinet, I'm using the original, so the stock cabinet, so not one of the IRs. In the Effects 1 or Comp block, I am using the compressor to smoothen everything out and to make it sound more even. And the hall reverb is on as well for some nice ambience. And then in the second section, I am enabling a mod effect. And again, this is one of those selectable effects. I'm using the CE1 chorus, which sounds really nice and lush. And for the ending section, I'm enabling the shimmer delay, which has a really cool effect with a sort of pitchy delay ambience thing going on. So I think that all the tones sounded awesome. And on top of that, I think it's great that you can use this thing as your audio interface. You can even record your dry DI tracks, and you can use this for reamping as well, which is what I did for this video. So initially I recorded the tracks with some basic presets, and then I went back to tweak the sounds a little bit more and to punch in the effects, and I did that through the reamping function, which works really well and it's really easy to use. Keep in mind that for an audio interface, you can only use this thing at 44.1 kilohertz. Loading IRs, as I said, is also a huge plus, and loading the IRs in the unit with the dedicated app was also quite easy. Overall, the effects also sounded really nice. I'm not overly fond of the pitch effects. They were a bit glitchy for my taste, but I really enjoyed the delays, the reverbs, the modulations, and some of the boosts and overdrives as well. So that's all great too. And again, the preamps or the amp models, because they are basically full-fledged amp models, sounded great to me as well. Maybe they need a little bit of tweaking, and maybe you need to go in and find the one that's perfect for you, because they might not all sound good for you. I also found some in there that weren't to my liking, but if you look well enough, you'll find some that will work for you, definitely. So I was able to get some great tones, as you heard in those clips. In terms of the in and outs, the unit is quite basic. You get an input jack, 2 outputs, regular jack outputs. You also get a phone's output and an effects loop with a send and return, and you can connect the unit to your computer with the USB-C port. Keep in mind that this thing does not come with a power adapter, but you can use your regular old 9-volt DC adapter and it works just fine. Or you can even power this with batteries, I believe, so that's also cool. So this is how I wanted to test this unit, and I think it turned out really well. I'm really surprised at how awesome these tones sound. So can this device function as an affordable all-in-one unit for playing live, practice, and also for recording in the studio? I think hell to the yeah. So if you're on a budget and you want something that does a lot of things and that can sound pretty damn good, the ME-90 is a pretty fun unit to look at. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to the folks at Boss for sending this over to me. I really appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. How did you like the sounds in this video? Of course, also drop a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I'd usually appreciate that. And you can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers.